Hi all, I hope you enjoyed the manual conversion series. Many people have asked me how much it costs to convert the R8 to a gated manual. I'm going to walk through the numbers with you as well as provide an estimate of labor hours needed to take on this project. To give context, I started buying these parts towards the beginning of the year 2021. That's right, I've been buying parts for well over a year, scouring eBay, waiting on back orders. Therefore, the costs I give you will be costs before inflation went out of hand towards the end of the year 2021. Let's start talking about the parts. I'm going to group the parts into separate groups. The first group of parts involve everything needed for the inside of the transmission. These parts include the manual versions of the shifters, rods, conversion bushings, and lock nuts. All in, these parts cost me about $2,700. Let's move on to the second group. Parts that bolt outside the transmission. These main parts include the shift selector that bolts on top of the transmission, as well as the linkages to link the shifter cables to the shift selector. Other parts include O-rings and blanking plugs to plug up the electronic detente holes. All in, these parts cost me $3,000. Third group. These are the pedals for the clutch and the brake pedals. I was fortunate enough to find the clutch pedal off a wrecked R8, saving me at least $500. However, I had to source the rest of the components that made up that clutch pedal, such as the clutch cylinder, return spring, and the clutch lines. All in, these parts cost me $755. Of course, we cannot forget about the actual gated shifter that is installed inside the interior of the car. This piece comes as an entire unit, but you will need to gather a lot of hardware to mount the shift cables to the gated shifter. So for the gated shifter, shift cables, and mounting hardware, all in, these parts cost me $3,400. The next group involves all of the electrical parts and specialty tools I needed, such as the 38mm socket, bushing installation tool, wiring harness, and pin removal tools. All in, these parts cost me $470. Finally, we need to replace the transmission fluid and fill the clutch line with brake fluid. All in, these parts cost me $120. This makes the total parts cost to be $10,445. I'm going to round this up to $11,000 to account for any other unexpected costs that you may run into when you're doing this conversion yourself. Now let's move on to the labor portion. How many hours did it take for me to complete this project? To me, it seemed like forever because half of my time spent in the garage involved me sitting in front of the car, scratching my head, and figuring out how to disassemble the transmission or install a certain part for the project. I spent a lot of nights and weekends for 2 months in my garage doing this. But if I had to estimate the time for a professional to do this, I imagine it could take about 1 to 1.5 weeks of labor, giving you a range of 40 to 60 hours of build time. Let's assume $150 per hour of shop time. We can estimate labor to cost around $6,000 to $9,000. If you want someone to do this for you, for your car, I can imagine the costs, all in, including parts and labor, to range anywhere from $17,000 to $20,000. So knowing what I know now from doing this project, would I do this again? Absolutely. This was the most intense project that I've ever done for any car. I absolutely enjoyed it. There were a lot of highs and there were a lot of lows, and I would not trade this experience for anything else. So yeah, I would definitely do this again. And if I happen to come upon another R8 that needs a conversion, I would not hesitate to do this. It is such a fun project once you figure out what you need to do. Well, that's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the series, and I'll see you in the next video.